Right, so we're at the big board again and we're in number 5. And number 5 was all about drawing down or pull down. So we're going to use draw down as the word at this stage because we're going to draw down something for each other. But at the same time, we've got 9, and 9 is how many minutes we're going to use. So we're going to do as much as we can in 9 minutes. And obviously, as you know, we've got a real life example, which is the brick. And I'm sure you're getting very familiar with this now. But is this right for you? Well, after all the work you've put in and all the hard work of building up assets and using them, for a lot of people it can be that, you know, I want them to start giving me something now. So how we use it and what we get is sort of like something you deserve, isn't it, after all that work? So we want to make sure it's right, and this is a very important one. I'll come back to you in a bit. But firstly, there's a question from last time which was all about all the areas to look at. Apart from chucking money at something, there's 12 other areas to look at. And which was the first one that you would do after you've chucked money at something? And for me personally, it was all about measuring. I want to know what's going on properly before I even throw more money at it, and I want to see how things are working. I'm going through all the others, but you know, I will do, but I just thought that was my very first one. So it's important for other people as well, because everybody deals with things in different ways. They all have different levels of earnings and income. That's why they want different levels of drawing things down. But at the same time, they've got to make a decision. And there was a big quote, which was bad decisions made with good intentions are still bad decisions. And we want the right decision. So we're going to get on the big board, but also I'm going to use all of the pens, the black, blue, green and red. This is very important. We're trying to get a message across to get the understanding right. And part of that is W1, and that's all about what is actually going to deliver the result we want. But also W4, and that's all about when is it going to actually happen. And it's not just that, it's also when we go a little bit further with getting the message across. We've got H1, and H1 is all different, but believe it or not, it's all about how is it going to work, right? So are you ready? Let's go. So I'm going to use the black pen first, and first of all, it's a bit of a reminder because we're using a very important plan and the emotional bit. I'm going to start with a line of the basic plan first. So we started out with just having a line on the floor, and this represented all the time because we had a start position, and the start position was right, the position when I was actually born, but I'm just going to mark that as a quick reminder. And also at the end we had a finish position, and the finish position is right for the end of me basically. But in that principle, when we get the start and the finish, we also have where am I currently, and I am here because I am aged 43 and I'm used to some money. So for me at the moment I had, and the money I get represents 100% of the money that I'm used to, right, and I'm getting involved with. But at the same time, we understood that in the emotional side was now. We understand that, but also use a blue pen because what we're starting to do is look forward, and when we look forward, I realised something's going to change for me, but I actually want some income later on as well. But believe it or not, I want 50% of the income I get now, and that age for me was going to be 53, and that is 10 years down the line, but that was all about then, right? But also this is slightly separate because on this side there's time separate, but also how the money is coming through is separate. So I'm just going to build that little divider in there because on this side it was all about part A, and part A was called work, and that's why me working very hard manages to give me money. But part B also exists, and that one over here was all about the assets, and that means that I won't work forever, but I might use assets to give me what I want. So we've got the asset base over here and we've got work over here, and that will change in time. Same principle though. In the assets, we knew in previous videos that it's just at this stage, it's just a pot. It's a pot of various different things, but at the same time, I'm just going to draw this on as a basic pot. And what we want to know is once this pot starts to work, and I've been building money up all this time, it started to fill the pot up, and that might represent how full my pot is at the moment, and that's where the money is. But at the same time, how am I going to get the money out of that to come down to give me the income I want? So it's the big H, which is how is it going to work? And in a silly example, which isn't all about bricks, it's a different example. It's that I could actually start pulling down or turning the knob in a very polite way to make sure that the money flows down. Now I could increase the knob and I could turn it more, I could make more money come out, but at the same time I need to know how that affects the assets. And this is a very important issue because we want to know at the same time what it will affect and how it will affect them. So in this position, when we're looking at it in certain ways, we want to know what will actually happen. And it might be, let's keep with the blue pen first, that even though I'm turning on the tap and the money's coming in, and over the years, my money actually increases. So it doesn't go down, it starts to go up every year. And that is A. But it could also be that as I'm drawing the money down, the money just in the asset pots stays the same, and that would be B. But it could be as I'm drawing the pot and I'm turning it all the way around, the money can actually come down. And if it was from that position, it might be that the money just comes all the way down and goes all the way to finish, and it comes much lower. But which one should it be? And the very important one is I'm going to borrow checklist pen for a second because it's all about the big red one. And the red one is, could it be that even though I'm drawing the money down from my asset base and I'm enjoying myself and doing what I want to do, could it be that the money runs out to zero long before the period of finish, right? So that's the important one. And Mr. Checklist has still got questions for you. He's got 2 this time, which is all about 5. And we're going to look at 5A first. And when you're looking at 5A, this is all about what will the assets provide? What will they be able to do? But also, when could you make this happen for yourself, right? So, not just that. We're looking at first, will your assets provide what you want and when you want it? So all it has to be is a yes it will, no it won't, or maybe it will, right? But also there's a 5B. And if you can read this because of the treasure chest, 5B was all about something slightly different. And that one was all about H. And the big how here is actually saying, how are your assets affected, right? So at this stage, we just want to know, ooh, and I can write that because the pillar's in the way. So the idea is still how your assets are affected. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Is it D? Right, now I've got some space. So, how, and you'll see it in a second, are your assets affected? Is it A, B, C, D, or just question mark? That's right. So hopefully you can see that now, and I wasn't very good at writing it because of the pillar. Okay, so we're going to give Mr. Checklist a quick salute because that's what he needs in his pen back. So he's got the stuff he needs and he'll keep following us all the way through this. But some people might be thinking this. And also because different people can be thinking differently, they may think this. Well, it doesn't matter either way, but what we're going to do is make sure that this is dealt with as an important area and want to focus, because the progression you make, even when you find things that we want to think about differently, it can mean that once I've thought about it a lot, I can move further forward. Still, if you do not focus on this and it's ignored, if you don't deal with it, it can be that some of the results, even the D, can come out and you didn't realize that could happen. I wish I'd known this sooner. So I'm going to leave this with you because when we start going further forward, it's something that we want to understand things properly before we make decisions. Now, we're going to give this a big green tick and we're going to take number 5. I'm going to score this as red, amber or green on the other side. Some people might still think this. but that's fine as well. It's just something that we want to focus on in a certain way, and we are here to try and help you. Now, the other tiny little bit is, where do we go next? Because we've done a lot here. We all want to make sure that we want to know what could happen, and not just what could happen, but when it could happen, right? And not just that either. We want to go to slice 6, and there's a lot of detail on this, and there's lots of areas on H1, which is even about how things are going to work and how things are going to start coming together. So before we do that, I'm just going to check the pillar. Well, the pillar has an example, like, withdrawing money from an ATM. And, years ago, I don't know whether you did this, but I did. It's like, I put my card in and I put my pin in and tried to get the money. But, it's a we've got no money. We can't pay you. I was like, it's on my computer. How did it run out of money? But in this example with you and your asset base, it's not exactly the same, but we just want to make sure that even with an ATM, your asset base doesn't end up like an ATM and runs out of money. So if you know anybody who will rely on their assets for the future to look after them, please to share. And tell you what, I'll see you on the other side in a second. But you know what? I cannot handle this pillar thing, right? It's just going to move this out the way, because I'm a bit specific on what I want to do, and this writing just wasn't very good. So I'm just going to take a bit off and get it right, and make sure it sort of works properly, because I'm a bit like that. So this is all about, the question again was all about B, and B was all about, how are your assets affected? How are your assets affected? Assets affected. Right? And we either have A, B, C, D, or a question mark, because we don't know. So that's all, either A, B, C, D, or a question mark, right? So I'll take this pen with me, and thank you for doing that, but I'm very specific. Sorry if I've taken up another minute. Bye-bye.